suddenly gotten so hot in here. Good grief. It's warm in here. It's warm. I kind of want to, you know, I like that, actually. Actually, I like that filter. The filter's not bad. Yeah, this filter's not bad. I think I'm going to use it over here on Instagram. I mean, I like my face, but I like the filters too, you know. Do that so that it's a nice center, you know. Hello. Welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. Welcome in. It is hot in here, and I don't want to take the sweater off because it's too many arms, you know. Hey, Sorante. What's up? Welcome in. Hello. Oh, welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. Oh, welcome. It's warm in here. Gosh, it's hot in here. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the humidifier and turn on the fan because the air conditioner is on. So I will return on my Keith Lee. I'm going to go turn on the fan, and I'll be back. It's always some adjustment I gotta make, isn't it? Isn't it? Okay, I'm being goofy right now because I'm in a pretty decent mood today. Shout out to the shout out. If you are following me on anything outside of Instagram and Facebook, I don't really like to talk about certain things on Instagram and Facebook because, you know, it's a lot of people I know. And, you know, honestly, crowdfunding is a little embarrassing, you know, just a little bit. But if you are on my TikTok, if you are on my Twitter, thank you. I do enjoy the color blue. Thank you. If you're on my TikTok, if you're on my Twitter, there are some posts up about some mutual aid needs that I have. So go check those out. If you'd like to donate to my show, my Cash App is, I'll put my Cash App down here and then I'll pin it. Let's see. If I say donate tips, Miss Taylor Said, post and pin. And then, you know, sometimes I don't even know how to leave a comment on, here we go. Donate / tip money sign Miss Taylor Said, send, and then pin. Boom. I'm starting to sweat, and that's not good. Okay, welcome to Reading what Miss Taylor Said. I'm getting things set up and going and everything like that. I was trying to share it over here, but we're just gonna keep moving forward. Oh, I gotta plug up this battery. Oh man, I'm just gonna leave it alone. Welcome to Reading what Miss Taylor Said. My name is Taylor, also known as Miss Taylor Said, and I started, hold on, I want to add a necklace. Y'all, you know what has me in a chokehold? Before we get into the show, right? Before we get into the show, you know what has me in a choke? Baby Drizzy! Baby Drizzy! It's so bad. It's so bad. What? Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, wait. What's another one? Freaking God. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's stuck in my head, and I have ADHD. So if something gets stuck in my head, it's there. I fall asleep, it's there. I wake up, it's there. I woke up this morning. Before I could say my morning prayers, the first thing on my head was, baby, Drizzy. Why? Kendrick is diabolical for that. Diabolical. I mean, even though that was Metro that did that. These men with planets, he a fan. Like, for real. Like, these men whose sun signs emerge from the planet of Mercury are diabolical. And I am living for it. I love every second of it. I love it. But let's not get distracted from the fact that It's Not Real is destroying Rafah. Is destroying Rafah even after they've called for a ceasefire, after they've agreed to a ceasefire. I'm just saying. You know, free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan. We're always going to say that. And also, I need to post them properly, but there are, on my personal Facebook page, there are two GoFundMes for people that are in Palestine right now that are trying to get out, that are trying to evacuate, because It's Not Real continues to, you know, drop things that the United States has paid for on them. So, okay, I thought I was going to make it with the sweater, and I'm not. It's hot. Welcome to Reading What Miss Taylor Said. My name is Taylor, also known as Miss Taylor Said, and I started this show back in November of 2020 in an effort to accomplish a few things. One of those things being that I want to read the books that I have. I have hella books. Got so many books. Right now, this one, this phone, the one that's over here for y'all and the one that's right here for y'all, is stacked on top of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. 6. And I have another book that we're going to read. That's not included in the books that this is standing on. Oh my God, I'm sweating. Sorry. So I started this show because I have hella books. Like I said, I got hella books that I'm trying to read, and I want to. Yeah, I got hella books I'm trying to read. The second reason why I started this show is because I would like to do public speaking in the future, and this allows me to practice that. And the last reason why I started this show is because I want to practice engaging with an audience as well. And the quarantine allowed me to do that, but now I am continuing, even though we're not in quarantine anymore. Welcome to Reading What Miss Taylor Said. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you're watching. We are reading Mother Hunger by Kelly McDaniel. It's been a pretty heavy book. I mean, heavy relative to where you are in your journey, especially if you deal with things that concern, you know, pain surrounding your relationship with your mother. So it's heavy in that regard. However, if you are on your, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go. So if you have not seen the previous episodes, go back on this page. On Instagram, you're going to have to go under my reels because I moved everything off of my main grid, but everything is under my reels. You'll see me up here like this and like this, like this. This is going to be what this video looks like this. You'll see me up there like this, and you can watch the previous videos if you are not caught up. Otherwise, you can just jump in. This chapter that we are in is called Surrogate Comfort. It talks about the things that we use in place of the comfort that we were supposed to receive for our mothers. So some things that we have discussed are what's a good baby, talking about like the cry it out method and things like that, where mother hunger begins, like when it begins, inadequate nurturance, eating in place of like mother hunger and things like that. So our relationships with food and things of that nature. The next section that we have up is called Escape Act. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Nadine was often frightened as a little girl. She grew up in a home with 2 parents and an older brother. Her father was always angry. Her brother was a bully, and her mother was too distracted to pay attention. Nadine remembers mealtimes as particularly miserable. She remembers her father criticizing her mother and the food. At the table, he preferred silence. If anyone spoke, his anger became aggressive. Nadine's brother usually provoked a fight, and her mother often left the table in tears. Nadine just wished everyone would be quiet so her father wouldn't get mad at her brother or make her mother cry. To cope with distress, she focused on her plate. She kept her eyes on the food. When I asked her to remember how the food tasted, she said, "I liked it if I tried hard enough." I could almost forget anyone was there. Nadine was a resourceful little girl. She found a way to soothe her fear. Focusing on eating calmed her nervous system. But over time, this practice became somewhat automatic. In essence, Nadine learned to isolate herself into a food trance, a zone where nothing else existed except the food on her plate. Nadine's strategy for regulating fear followed her into adulthood. As a mother now, Nadine still prefers to eat alone. She prepares her food and takes it into her room. Her children eat alone in their rooms with computers and phones for company, and her husband does the same. Food and technology replace human connection in this family, mimicking the isolation of Nadine's original home. Food is a powerfully effective way to regulate emotions when human connection can't. In my experience, helping women rearrange the primitive food bond that serves as a stand-in for early maternal care takes incredible respect and time. This makes sense if we understand that overeating and undereating are in fact related to the fight or flight response, a way to escape pain. Unable to leave the family table or caught with a secret sugar supply, some girls discover very young that food provides a virtual escape from intolerable feelings. Food plans generally don't work because rules feel like deprivation and trigger the primary loss. We know that food and nurturance are connected. When a friend is sick, we offer food. To celebrate a holiday or accomplishment, we share a meal. But lack of early nurturance distorts the connection between food and bonding, leading to what Alexandra Katahakis said, calls the comfort without contact strategy. Comfort without contact or self-soothing is what babies learn when there is too much maternal deprivation. This is why sleep training is so risky and can set up a mother hunger, can be a setup for mother hunger to grow. As a child matures, food replaces thumb sucking or finger chewing. I just realized reading that I read that last week already. Oh, look at all these people that are in here. I'm going to wave at you all. Wave. I read that last time, so I'm going to move on to the next section because we already discussed that one. The next section is called food trance. Maladaptive eating becomes a non-relational habit that fills in for inadequate maternal nurturance. Restricting or overindulging is about a longing to be cherished and safe. Both eating habits are forms of the fight or flight response. Without a sense of safety and belonging, fear is ever present. So undereating and overeating are ways to numb fear when there is nowhere to go. When food replaces maternal care, self-development may stop. Hidden beneath the urge to eat or starve is a little one waiting for love and protection. So, story time. When I was transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade, the summer in between 8th and 9th grade, I had disordered eating, and it was a reaction to my environment. In the 8th grade, my mother was really caught up in church, and we went to a church that where most of the students were either homeschool or private school, and so I was getting in trouble at school. I was just behaving in a way that my mother didn't like, and it really, looking back on it, it really wasn't misbehavior. It's just that her desire to control my behavior made it seem like I was misbehaving, and I really wasn't. It was that a lot of that stuff could have been solved with conversation, nurturance, and emotional connection. But hey, what do I know? I don't have kids. But She threatened, I think during winter break, right before, the day before winter break, started, or right before that last day before winter break started, my mother threatened to take me and my brother out of our school, out of public school, and exclusively homeschool us. And that caused me to make an attempt on my life, because not to be dramatic, I grew up in an abusive home. So, like, not being dramatic, being at home with my mother was literally the worst thing that could happen to my life at that time. Because I wouldn't have learned anything. Like, let's be very clear. It's episode 91. Yes. I don't count last week. I think we're on episode 90 because I'm not counting last week. So I made an attempt on my life because being at home with my mother was like literally the worst thing that could happen. We already had 2 babies in the house. So there were 2 babies, and then she was saying she was going to homeschool me and my brother. My older sister had just got kicked out a year or so before, because she didn't want to go to church anymore. And she was literally just going to homeschool us because she was being a follower of the people at our church. So the year 8th grade happened. She was bluffing, first of all. So she was lying to us. So she didn't even do any of the paperwork or anything to get us out of school. So she didn't do any of the paperwork to like get us out of school or anything like that. She just threatened us with this and was just like, say goodbye to your friends because you're never coming back. And then we literally went to school crying that last day, telling our friends goodbye. The friends that we actually enjoyed. We didn't like the church friends. They were so sheltered, and we were going to predominantly black inner city. Well, I don't know if it was inner city technically, but like low income black and brown kids I was going to school with 5 days a week, and then on the weekends I was going to church with rich white kids that ain't never done anything outside of Matthews, North Carolina. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have that type of experience, or like I say stuff like if I said, "Ooh, that person is sexy," like they were like, "Oh my God, you cussed." Meanwhile, when I was in middle school, we were having Power 98 had hosted a dance. We were middle schoolers grinding to R. Kelly's remix to Ignition. Okay, so like it was just a stark difference all the time. My mother threatened to take me out of the environment that was fun and felt more comfortable, where I felt like I could be myself, and was like, "I'm snatching you out of there and you're not going to go back." So winter break passes. Nothing happens. We go back to school. It felt stupid as hell. We go back to school. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was not supposed to. I wasn't allowed to date, but I still had a boyfriend because, please. My mother was not loving and affectionate or anything like that. So I'm going to go get me a boyfriend. What do you mean? Somebody can tell me I'm pretty? Yes. And hug me and what? Yeah. Anyway, oh, mother hunger. Story. Sorry, I got distracted. When 8th grade ended, that's where I'm at. When 8th grade ended, she found out about my boyfriend. I got in so much trouble, and I lost all of my privileges for that summer. That summer, I locked myself in my room and did nothing but read books. One of the books, I think I read this one back then. This is one of the books I read. I was reading books this size, right? Now, granted, this one is mostly like it's a fiction book, but it's set up in prose. But I was reading books, and when I tell you I was clocked in reading these books, I was finishing a book a day. I would lock myself in my room for like 8 hours and read a book. in addition to that, because I was so sad because I didn't know if I was going to be able to go back to school, I couldn't talk to my boyfriend, who felt like my best friend at that time. I couldn't talk to my boyfriend on the phone or nothing like that. Like, I basically was forced into isolation because I had a boyfriend and I wasn't following the rules. I was forced into isolation that summer. And so I just, like, instead of, like, participating in the house and trying to act like everything was okay, I just locked myself in my room and I read books every single day. And I also intentionally did not eat. Like the book is talking about, I didn't eat on purpose. The most that I would eat was, I would come out of my room, I would eat a slice of bread, I would drink milk, and drink water, and that was pretty much it. For the whole summer, I intentionally did not eat. And part of it was I was sad, and I could feel, like, I remember associating the feeling of hunger with, I can feel something. I feel like I felt really numb because of all these things that I was forced to do without any autonomy over my body, and I could control. I'm really unpacking this right now. I could control the food intake. At the end of the day, she couldn't force me to eat. And so if I didn't want to eat, I wasn't going to eat. And she didn't force me to eat. She didn't even really care if I ate. It would be like, I cooked dinner. You want some? No. Oh, okay. And then that was the end of it. That was the end of it. It wasn't a concern. There wasn't a worry. Now, my stepdad, he was concerned. He was worried. But my mama, she wasn't worried about it. Now, granted, I will say, again, she had 2 babies. So, you know, she was going through, she had 2 babies. And she, after the second one, she had, or after, I mean, technically her 5th one, but the second one that was born at that time, she had a brain aneurysm. So she was in a lot of recovery and all that stuff all the time. But at the same time, it was like, regardless of what was going on, I was a child that needed their mama. And the only capacity that I had my mother in was her telling me what to do and what not to do and what I wasn't allowed to do, and having someone, and not doing it herself, but having someone else hit me whenever I wasn't doing what she wanted me to do. And that's just one story, so I don't need nobody measuring, you know, the level of stuff I went through off of one story. But that was one story where it was just like, oh, I didn't eat for a whole summer and you didn't notice. And I used that to comfort myself. It's weird. And I still go to that. Like, whenever I struggle with something or I'm going through something, either I will binge eat or I won't eat. Anyway, continuing into Food Trance from Mother Hunger by Kelly McDaniel. If you are just now joining us, this is Reading What Miss Taylor Said. We are reading Mother Hunger by Kelly McDaniel. And the section that we are in is called Food Trance. So, as well-practiced adults, women eat or restrict food in a mild trance without any awareness of their childhood fear fueling the food bond. Maladaptive food patterns may continue as if they belong to someone else. Here's how one client, Debbie, experienced it. In the middle of the night, a different part of me comes out. She crawls into the kitchen, she stuffs herself with anything she can find, and goes back to bed. In the morning, I feel sick and puffy. And sometimes I can't remember why until I go into the kitchen and find the mess. For Debbie, late night eating happens as if she is in a trance. Currently separated from her spouse of 32 years, she is living alone for the first time in her life. At night, unhealed childhood fears wake her up from nightmares, sweating and shaking. Together, we've been exploring how this happens. Debbie grew up with a needy mother who could be very cold and critical. Debbie did everything she could to please her, but it never seemed to be enough. One moment, she was her mother's best friend, and the next, she somehow made her mad. Never sure why, she remembers the torture of her mother's punitive, stony silence that seemed to last for days. As a little girl, Debbie spent hours alone in her room, hiding under the covers, waiting to be forgiven for whatever she had done wrong. And she ate. She kept a secret stash of crackers, chocolate, and gummies in her closet behind a raincoat where no one ever looked. It was her own pharmacy. Now, at age 54, Debbie feels the same depression she experienced as a little girl. She is losing her marriage, has few friends, and worries constantly about her children and grandchildren. But she explains to me that her biggest source of pain is her relationship with food and how much she hates her body. I will never be happy until I lose weight. It's the only thing that really matters. I think about it all day, every day. Debbie's internal warfare makes sense to me. It's easier to fight with food than face mother hunger. Like many adult women, Debbie designed her life to please her mother. She went back to school. She went to the school her mother chose. She married the man her mother wanted her to, and she stayed in her mother's hometown. When Debbie had her own children, she trained them to behave so her mother would be proud. And still, her mother was unhappy. As a dutiful daughter, Debbie never got angry with her mother. Instead, she ate. Debbie's treatment with me began a year after her mother died, which is very common. Facing this work is sometimes impossible with a living mother. Currently, Debbie is coming to terms with the depth of sadness and anger she feels about her life. Although her mother is no longer living, Debbie still feels like a bad girl. Her whole body reacts as if she is betraying her mother by telling me about her childhood. Her face flushes, she squirms and looks away. These are normal reactions many women experience as they remember maternal deprivation and begin to tell the truth. When Debbie shares about eating and body hatred, I'm reminded of Janine Roth's words. We treat our bodies as if they are the enemy, as if deprivation, punishment, and shame lead to change. The change Debbie needs is not really about food. As mother hunger heals and her core wound is addressed, Debbie is naturally losing the weight that made her body uncomfortable. As she faces grief, receives support, and replaces lost maternal care, her body is becoming her home. At the end of this chapter is a questionnaire that makes the connection between nurturance, food, and love more concrete. The rest of this book will be more meaningful if you take a few minutes to write your responses. If this feels too difficult, trust that and wait until you are with a safe friend or your therapist to do this exercise. Nurturance through touch is the next section of Mother Hunger. Babies need maternal affection the way plants need water. Without it, they wilt. If mom is not nurturing, resourceful infants and girls find other ways to meet this primal need. Little girls are comfort-seeking missiles. And if they are lucky, they cuddle safely with siblings, other mothers, fathers, grandparents, stuffed animals, and pets. Someone or something warm and soft. I'm going to plug my phone up, just a moment, and I'm going to take a drink of water. Hope y'all are enjoying the show. Baby Eldridge. Baby Eldridge. One moment. Okay. As a little girl, Caroline's mother would not let her have a stuffed animal to sleep with. I hated nighttime. It was too dark. I was so scared. She wouldn't let me have a nightlight or a stuffed animal because she said it would make me too needy. Caroline's mother, like many misguided parents, was afraid of making her daughter too dependent. But forcing a child to be independent is futile. It simply doesn't work. Independence grows from a secure, safe maternal connection. Caroline didn't have this. She remembers the loneliness of her bed and her longing for comfort. She sucked her thumb. She stroked her pillow. She fantasized about being rescued. In Being There, Erica Commissar writes about the importance of transitional objects. Respect your child's needs for blankets, stuffed animals, and or pacifiers, which represent you and the security you provide in your absence. If your child naturally takes to a transitional object, it will be easier for you to leave for short periods of time. If there are any mamas watching out there, any mamas watching on the replay, don't stop your kid from having, welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. Any mamas out there, any mamas watching on the replay, please don't stop your kid from having those transitional items like they said, respect your child's needs for blankets, stuffed animals, and or pacifiers, which represents you and the security you provide in your absence. It's going to be easier. It's helpful. It's a teammate. Honestly, those things are teammates for you. But hey, what do I know? I ain't nobody's mama. It's 4:44. Okay, touch deprivation. Touch deprivation is the next section. Lack of maternal nurturance leads to touch deprivation. Touch deprivation has a mind of its own. Before girls who lack maternal nurturance get older and have access to drugs and alcohol to comfort their touch-starved bodies, they touch themselves. Before they starve or binge or purge, they touch each other. Before they cut, burn, or bang, they meet their desperate needs with siblings, pets, or anything warm and soft. Little girls without maternal affection are especially vulnerable to those who might take advantage of them. They don't recognize inappropriate touch because it's better than no touch. In this way, early sexual abuse may go decades without discovery. Okay, trigger warning. We're going to be talking about sexual abuse in this section. Okay. They don't recognize inappropriate touch because it's better than no touch. In this way, early sexual abuse may go decades without discovery. Filled with shame, women tell me stories of how they didn't mind sitting on an uncle's lap or touching a grandfather's penis. Even though they knew something was wrong, they rubbed up against their brothers or sisters, or mattresses, chairs, and tables. Like food, orgasm medicates emotional starvation. Caroline's mother sent her away to summer camp when she was very young. I hated the bugs, the lake, and the slimy, awful food. It was like a bad dream. Caroline remembers her summers craving grape soda and Snicker bars. And touch. I stared at the girls who had long, pretty hair and seemed so confident. I wanted to be just like them. To make them like me, I did anything. Sometimes we would sneak into an empty cabin. We kissed and touched each other. It was amazing. I never wanted it to stop. I hear stories like this often. Young girls curling up in the dark refuge of sleepovers, privately exploring each other, grasping for affection before daylight returns and brings them back to their cold, rejecting mothers. Erotic affection between girls often has little to do with sexual orientation and frequently stems from touch deprivation. This applies across the board. This is not just a girl thing. This is a child thing. But we're talking about girls, but this is a child thing. Welcome in. We are reading, welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. We are reading Mother Hunger by Kelly McDaniel. We are in the section talking about touch deprivation. So it is talking about childhood experiences with sexual abuse and trauma, just so you're aware. We are resourceful creatures, and one way or another, as we grow and develop, we find ways to meet essential human needs. Almost no one talks about girls and masturbation, Yet this is one of the first and strongest substitutes little ones find to replace a mother's touch. Self-stimulation, like thumb sucking, is a resourceful way to regulate fear when you're hungry for comfort. Unwanted touch is the next section. If this was on Patreon or something like that, I would get into details of my own personal experience with that section. But just know I relate heavily to several parts of that section. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Unwanted touch. Not all maternal touch feels good. When mom's touch is icky, sexual, or intrusive, aggressive, it's tragic. To cope, daughters shut down the desire for human closeness. The shutdown response isn't a decision. It's a body-based reaction to violation. Mothers bathe, feed, dress, and undress their daughters. These intimate moments teach a little girl about her body and her worth. When maternal touch is disrespectful in any way, it leaves a lasting impact. In her book, A Mother's Touch, Julie Brand writes about being molested by her mother. She recalls nap times and how it felt strange to have her mother in bed, touching her body. But there was no force or physical pain. When I work with women who share similar backgrounds, they describe their mother's touch as icky or heavy, but they don't identify it as abuse, particularly when it didn't hurt, but also because a mother's touch is normal or familiar. When daughters experience inappropriate touch from their mothers, shame keeps them silent. As adults, these women feel very little desire to be close to their mothers. Driven by duty, they may remain helpful, loyal, and close, but relief comes when their mothers die. When their mother dies. Relief is not the same thing as healing. Without intervention, these women may unconsciously repeat a mother's touch with unhealthy partners and self-injury. When women speak of sexual abuse, the perpetrator is usually a male family member. Dr. Christiane Northrup's groundbreaking book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, linked father-daughter sexual abuse with future sex and love addiction. Similarly, in Women's Sex and Addiction, author and therapist Charlotte Davis Castle connected sexual abuse to addictive love and sex. Like Northrup, Castle points to men. The role fathers play in the development of female sex addiction cannot be overstated. Little girls take their cues from their dads. They want that special energy, the light in daddy's eyes, to be directed toward them. The ache for a warm and affectionate dad who did not sexualize the relationship is deeply etched in the hearts of most women. While I agree with Castle that a little girl wants to feel special to her father, her assertion that girls take their cues from dad reflects a blindness to the primacy of the mother-daughter relationship. If a daughter is nurtured, protected, and guided by her mother, she's less vulnerable to her father's unhealthy behaviors, and she may not need as much of his time or encouragement. His love is a bonus, but she's already steady from her mother's love. Castle seems to recognize this herself later in the book as she writes about her obsession with the lover Sam. I knew that my attraction to Sam had reawakened the part of me that still felt terribly wounded by my mother. Castle's process reflects what I've seen happen over and over again. Identifying maternal neglect or abuse doesn't happen until later in life. It's as if we are protected from knowing until we are truly ready to know. Perhaps getting angry with the father for our difficulties is easier than pointing to mom because our culture allows us to identify men as abusive before women. Or maybe it's even more primitive than that. Psychologically, it might be more threatening to lose a mother's approval than a father's. Most certainly, it's a mix of these complicated factors. That's some wicked shit. I don't have personal experience with that. But I know that thank God. And I don't know anybody that has personal experience with that, so I don't really have a lot of commentary on that. But, whew. Well, okay, here we go. This is the last section before the questionnaire, okay, of Mother Hunger that we're still reading. Intimacy intolerance. Painful, shameful, or non-existent maternal touch may lead to touch aversion in close adult relationships. Women talk about having automatic responses to romantic partners that seem to come from nowhere, like an allergic reaction. I call this involuntary reaction intimacy intolerance. When someone gets too close, intimacy intolerance causes you to feel a little sick. Their emotional proximity feels disgusting or irritating. In Naked in Public, Stacy Sprout does a remarkable job of describing intimacy intolerance. I usually hated touching other people. Whenever I tried it, I felt an odd prickly sensation and an urgent impulse to jerk my hand away. For Stacy, touching someone created a sour, hot feeling that covered an ever-yawning, excruciating maw of need. If the concept of intimacy intolerance resonates for you, it may be that you feel hungry for a certain type of love, but are mystified by what keeps you from having it. Maybe you find solace in fantasy, the chemical changes in your body that come with imagining a perfect lover are enough. The chemical changes in your body that come with imagining a perfect lover are enough. If you go toward relationships, you may be drawn to avoidant partners or friends because they won't threaten your unconscious intimacy thresholds. For you, avoidant partners and friends are better than people who suffocate you. Okay. So, the next section is the hunger questionnaire. I'm going to ask these questions. If you're watching on the playback, I suggest y'all come back and watch this part on the playback. But if you're watching now, you can do the question prompts. If you're watching on the playback, watch it, pause, watch it, pause, watch it, pause. Okay. First question is, as a child, were you encouraged to eat when you weren't hungry? Were you forced to eat food that was disgusting to you? Yes and yes. As a child, were you deprived of food when you were hungry? Were favorite foods withheld from you? Yes and yes. How were meal times in your family? Who cooked? Did you eat together or alone? As a child or adolescent, did you ever sneak food? Binge food, restrict food? How do you know when you're hungry? What sensations emerge? What's your favorite food? Why? Use 3 words to describe how you feel about food. Use 3 words to describe how you feel about sexual intimacy. Now look at the words you listed for food and for sexual intimacy. Are they the same? Are they different? Why? And that is the end of chapter 4. That last part was pretty freaking heavy, but we got through it. The next section is called Toxic Waters. Now, next week, I have my appointment at 3 o'clock, and then the show starts at 4 o'clock. So the show might start a little bit later than 4 o'clock, just so I can get myself together after my therapy appointment and be right for us to move on to the next section. I am thankful that you guys keep coming back to the show. I'm thankful that you guys are still here. If you missed any episodes prior to this one, then go back and watch under my Reels tab on Instagram and under the videos on my Facebook page. One of these days, I'm going to upload all of these newer episodes to YouTube. We're not there yet. But if you want to watch the old episodes from the back days, look up MissTaylorSaid on YouTube and go watch those. I mean, they're here too, where you are, but they're there also. Anyway, thank you guys for watching Reading what Miss Taylor Said today. I hope that you have a beautiful day. I hope that you take care of yourself. And drink some water, please. Go drink some water. Eat some fruit or vegetables, something that's nourishing to your body, and get some rest. That's what I need to do, and that's what I'm asking you to do. And, you know, go to the mirror also and tell yourself something that you like about yourself. Just, it could be one thing. It could be 10 things. I think you should do 10 things, but you could do one. You know, I appreciate y'all being here. Make sure you keep your eyes on Rafa. Keep your eyes on Rafa. If you are in a position where you can go help the students that are in an encampment, you know, go over there, check it out, bring a case of water, bring some supplies to them babies, and y'all be well. Bye.